listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome to the GM Shuffle. I am Geoff Schwartz alongside Marty Hurney. The GM Shuffle is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. And Marty, we have a busy week of NFL action into week 4 now. We're starting to get a good idea of what these teams are and are not. And it's a big week for some 1-2 teams in the Chiefs and Ravens. There's an 0-3 team that desperately needs to win to stay alive in their division. And we will cover it all today. I'll give you a quick roadmap on what we're going to do. We'll kind of give you some stories off the top, some major stories we like about the National Football League heading into week 4. Then we'll hit Thursday Night Football, which is tonight, if you're listening to this on Thursday. And then we'll get into game previews, and we'll end with our best bets, Marty. Are you excited for week 4? It feels like we do know. I feel like what the teams sort of are by now, with a little bit of shuffling, but I feel comfortable knowing what these teams can be this season.
Yeah, I'm excited, Geoff. I mean, last week was wild, wasn't it? I mean, the blocked field goals and the special teams plays, and just it was one of those weeks that you felt exhausted after watching all the games. And I'm really excited for this week. And there's some good matchups this week.
There were 9 special teams or defensive scores last weekend, 9 of them, the most in over 20 years. So I don't expect it this weekend, but you never know, right? With the way this league works, I do feel pretty strong that we're not going to get as many blocked field goals. Because look, the way this is going to work is that there's meetings we have all week, right? But specifically on Saturdays, a lot of times coaches in those night meetings at the hotel will go over situations. And they will show all the block kicks. And they will say, guys, we're not going to get a kick blocked. We're not going to do it. Here's how. Highlight so-and-so person, the wing. Make sure that you actually punch the rusher off the edge. You have to actually touch that guy. You can't just let him go under your arm. Hey, if you're inside, right, get big and get swole. So I think we'll see less of those. But a story that really intrigues me heading into week 4 now is we have a handful of undefeated teams. Some known that we thought were going to be undefeated, like Buffalo, for example, like the Eagles. Some that have not shocked us, but good start in the Chargers, right? 3-0. Tampa Bay 3-0. The Niners 3-0 with their schedule. Thought that was possible. Also, the one team that we did not expect at all is the Colts at 3-0. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that are 3-0. If you start 3-0, you make the playoffs 75% of the time. So, Marty, the question I have is, let's just say 2 teams that's obviously, that's a third or 2/3, I should say, that make it. It's a third that doesn't. But 2 teams that do not make the postseason starting 3-0. Who are those teams that doesn't start this weekend with the games they play?
See, I'd like a chance to wager on that, because I see maybe one not making it, Geoff, and simply because, listen, you mentioned the Chargers, Bills, and Eagles, right? I think both of us would be more than shocked if any one of those teams didn't make the playoffs, right? So now you get down to the Colts, Buccaneers, and 49ers. The Colts are in the AFC South, and the Bucs are in the NFC South, and there's not a lot of competition there. So, although the Colts would probably be the second team if I had to say one that wouldn't make it. Right now, the 49ers are a team that I worry about, just because they are decimated with injuries, Geoff. And, Kyle Shanahan kind of tapes and finds ways to win games every week, but I don't think he can do that throughout the season. And I think there's 2 other really good teams in the West, and the Rams and the Seahawks. So if I had to pick one, it would be the 49ers. If you made me pick 2, the second would be the Colts. But I just went the AFC South. I think they're in good shape.
So the Colts to me are the team right now that I look at. They are on DraftKings right now. I'm just double checking because I want to make sure I have the right number. DraftKings will give you, yes, no playoff odds. And right now the Colts are yes minus 350 and no minus 270. So if you like them to miss the playoffs, now is the time to make that wager. And I'll explain the reasoning for that is I think they lose this weekend. We'll talk about this game later, and it might be one of my best bets. The number's going to come down, right? Houston presumably wins this weekend, even though their offense has looked bad, Marty. So if they win this weekend, now there's 2-game difference between them. They've yet to play each other, right? And so, there's a possibility you win both those games, right? You own the tiebreaker. So I think if there's a team that I'm looking at to not plus 270, I think is a good wager now. If you think the Colts aren't going to make it, as far as the Niners, they're going to get Brock Purdy back, as we know, at some point. They've done enough with Mac Jones, right? They squeaked by last weekend, 16-15. The question I have about the Niners, Marty, and you can help answer this for me, is they're much worse without Bosa in the lineup. And he's obviously out for the season with an ACL. Unfortunately, that was announced after we finished recording on Monday, because, of course, after we finish recording, stuff gets announced. But we thought it could be bad. There are probably moves to be made. They have cap space. Trey Hendrickson is on the Bengals team that might be floundering the rest of the season. Cam Jordan is on a Saints team that's going nowhere fast. I imagine he's chasing Super Bowl to end his career. By the way, quick on Cam Jordan. He's a bona fide Hall of Famer that I don't think anyone realizes is a Hall of Famer.
No question.
The dude is top 10 in sacks all time?
Yeah.
He has 140 sacks. He's incredible. I mean, that might be too many, but he's an incredible football player. So do you think the Niners are going to call around about the trade deadline to find themselves a pass rusher if they're still in this?
If they're still in it, obviously, you have to see what the next 3-4 weeks bring, Geoff. But they're an organization that has proven they will be aggressive to go out and get guys that they need. They did it, 2 years ago when they got Chase Young, right? So very similar circumstances here. And yes, I think they will go out and they will definitely look to try to bring somebody in. But I think the next 3 or 4 weeks is going to define how strong they do that.
123 career sacks for Cam Jordan. He's had some monsters. He's not a traditional pass rusher either, Marty, in the sense that we think of traditional pass rushers. So to have that many sacks without being that type of, I don't know what the right word is, but he's not traditional. He's bigger body,
right?
Yeah, he's not as twitchy, but he's got that arm over. He's got that push pull. He's got that strength. He's a very versatile player for them. And I wonder if he's been a good trooper in New Orleans, but I wonder if he's trying to win a Super Bowl now, and the Niners come calling. So I'm in on the Colts. Probably, I could be wrong, obviously, on that. And then obviously, you think the Niners are the team that's going to falter down the stretch. A couple kind of news and injury notes before we get into talking about Thursday Night Football first. Washington, I'm a little worried, Marty. Terry McLaurin, it appears, could be injured for longer than we expected. Jaden Daniels, they haven't announced him being out, but the line moved from them being a favorite to them being underdog in Atlanta. How concerning are these two injuries combined, considering the slower start in offense that I think some of us thought was going to happen? I'll put my hand up. I thought they weren't going to start slow this year. So how concerning is this for you?
You know what, Geoff? It would be concerning for almost any other team, but under Dan Quinn and with Adam Peters in last 2 years, they have showed a way to find how to win games, and they just have that knack. They're a group that just knows how to win now. And you look at it last week, Marcus Mariota in there. They rush for 200 yards. They get special team touchdown. They just find a way to win. This game's a really hard game. Going down to Atlanta. Atlanta got blown out by the Panthers by 30 points. Normally, history tells you teams that get blown out the week before come back and play extremely well. But this Washington team is just so in sync, I think. They're very balanced offensively, defensively, special teams. They just find a way to win. So, yeah, are those injuries concerning? Sure. And Jaden Daniels, I know they said that, they decide Friday, and he said it'd be up to the doctors. Geoff, I think one of the discussions that take place there this week is, okay, we're playing on field turf down in Atlanta, okay, and next week we're back on grass. Do we give him that extra week and keep him off the field turf? Now, if he can play, he's going to play. But if it's close, if it's 50-50, I think that he doesn't play. But this worries me. I always get scared of playing in Atlanta because being in Carolina, we lost a lot, but down there. But honestly, under Raheem Morris, I mean, they're 6-5 in Atlanta, so it's not as strong a home field as it was when we would go down there once a year.
Yeah, that was always a tougher trip.
Oh, House of
Yeah,
Horrors.
look,
I hated that
it,
place. I hated playing out
um,
there.
New Orleans wasn't as bad, I don't think, for us, and then Tampa was fine, but Atlanta was like always
Right.
that one place where it felt like it was a really
Atlanta
tough
was tough.
spot to be in. And by the way, we should just ban turf, just play on grass. I think that'd be fine, Marty. I Players are really strong on this, and I wish that look, to be fair, there's not much you can do, but Atlanta's it's a dome. But look, Arizona has a dome and they have grass. The Raiders have a dome and they have grass. You can grass in Las Vegas. You could grow, grass in Atlanta. But what's frustrating to me as former player now, I didn't have this issue quite the same as players do now. But like Carolina, right? Carolina had great grass. It was awesome. And then went to turf, you know? And you look at some of the new places that are talking about building stadiums. They're going from, Tennessee, I believe, has grass now. The new stadium's going to have turf. The
Yep.
Browns' new stadium, the Bears' new stadium, all these places that have grass are going to turf, and turf beats up your legs, man. It's not really, to be fair, too, it's not really on game day exactly. Now, when you fall down on turf, it certainly is tougher on the body, but it's practice, right? When you have to go in the indoor facility from the end of October until the end of the season, every day on turf, right? Wednesday,
Yep.
Thursday, Friday, you feel it on your joints as the season goes on. And I get the purpose of those indoors, but man, I don't care how cold it was. Put me outside. Your body feels better on that grass.
I'm with you. And now, turf has gotten much better, right? Better than it was on the
Yeah.
turf, when you played, but still, it's not grass. And I'm with you. I will take grass any day of the week, because I just do think it's easier to get injured.
And interesting, I think you're absolutely right, right? Like teams do look at Jay and Daniels. Okay, can we go one more week, get off the turf, and let him rest, and then come back at home? Obviously, they play 8 of their games, at home on grass, or 8 or 9, depending on the season. Obviously, they play the Eagles as well. So they have enough grass games going forward. All right, enough talk about grass and turf. We're getting into games. Thursday Night Football's next.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We're back on the GM Shuffle. Geoff Schwartz, Marty Hurney. Let's get into it, Marty. We got a lot of games to preview. We'll preview the game tonight on Thursday, the early game Sunday. All the games Sunday. We'll maybe leave Monday Night Football for our Monday episode. You can find us, as always, on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform of choice. We always appreciate comments, reviews, any of those things. Please leave those if you enjoy the show. All right, it is a divisional matchup. The 2-1 Seahawks at the 2-1 Arizona Cardinals. Arizona is a 1.5 point underdog. The total is 43.5. Arizona off that loss to the Niners. The Seahawks, 2 straight big wins against the Steelers and the New Orleans Saints. Marty, I think you have a favorite play in this game. What's your thought?
I like Seattle tonight, Geoff, and I think, and of course, people in Seattle should cringe because I'll jinx them, but I think the Seahawks are one of those surprising teams that are improving, and I think they're going to be a factor in that division race this year. I really do. Tonight, they are 7-0 versus, or they've won 7 straight against the Cardinals. Kyler Murray has never beat Seattle. Actually, the last quarterback to win a game for Arizona versus the Seahawks, I think, was Colt McCoy back in 21. So then you add the fact that the Seahawks are 8-1 on the road under Mike McDonald the last year and for 3 games. That's pretty impressive. More importantly, Geoff, and all those things are great, but when you look at these two teams, I think Seattle is really forming an identity under Mike McDonald as far as really good defense. Sam Darnold had a 154 quarterback rating last year. They have an extremely balanced offense with a really good running game. I don't know whether Zach Charbonnet is going to be back. I think he's questionable right now. But if he and Kenneth Walker are a really good tandem, to me, I think they're the best running back tandem in the league. So I just really like the Seahawks. I just can't get my hands around the Cardinals, Geoff. They just don't give me an identity. I mean, I know it's Kyler Murray, but now without James Conner, I don't think they have a running game without him. I just think that they're going to struggle. I like the Seahawks tonight.
The NFC West has some really interesting, like game records between teams where teams own other teams. It's very interesting. It's not like in other places where you have like, for example, you mentioned the Seahawks and the Cardinals. There's a Niners Rams, thing where the Niners beat the Rams most years. And obviously maybe the Rams beat the Niners most years. And the one time they didn't with the NFC Championship game. But it's also worth noting here. I'm going to pull this up just to make sure. So since realignment, okay? Since 2002, realignment, worst record in division games, minimum 20 starts. Kyler Murray, 8-21 in division. That's a 27.6% win percentage. Worst since conference realignment, minimum 20. John Kitna is up there, Joey Harrington, Josh McCown, and David Carr. And that goes to show me that, Marty, that there's basically one pitch for Kyler Murray. And the more you scout him, the more time you see him, the easier it is to hit that pitch the second time, the third time, the fourth time. Because look, when you play division opponent, there's a lot of intimate knowledge there, right? And so often it takes either something extraordinary to happen to win that game, a game plan thing, an injury obviously can happen. And the problem for the Cardinals is the injury happened. It's James Conner, right? And while the production wasn't there this year as we saw last season so far, he's a big part of what they do physically, right? They need that physical nature of James Conner. Trey Benson has filled in well, but he's not James Conner. And often Trey Benson, and look, backup running backs do well in the backup role. Now you're the guy getting 20 to 22 carries a game. It's a little different than getting 12 carries a game, and half of those are on third down, and so it's a different situation for him. I like Kyler Murray over 28.5 rushing yards in this game. I think they have to use his legs to supplement the loss of Connor. Plus, if they're behind in this game, just going down the field and having to use his legs to make some plays, I'm in that scramble mode. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just not gotten going quite like expected. 142 yards in 3 games, only 10 receptions, 17 targets. He dropped that pass in the Niners game, and talked about just having to do better. So I do lean Seattle here as well. And so a fun Thursday night game. Look, 0-2 division is certainly at hand here. Both teams have lost the Niners. Don't want to start 0-2 in the division. I love what you said about identities. We know what Seattle's is, or at least getting there. I'm not sure we know what Arizona's identity is. Trey McBride is fantastic. I wish he got the ball a little more often. We've got the end zone. He doesn't get in the end zone, which is kind of crazy. All right, moving to the early game Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. For those on the East Coast, fantastic. I get to watch a little football early in the morning for the NFL. Steelers are 2.5-point underdogs. Vikings favored by 2.5 here. Total 40.5. This game is in Dublin, and both teams will arrive Friday morning. Correct, Marty?
Yep, laying around 8 o'clock. You leave around 7 o'clock Eastern time, which is midnight London time or Ireland, wherever they're going now, and so you usually land around 8 o'clock.
So you played in these games, or you've been a part of these games. I have the international series started when I was near the end of my career, and I never got an opportunity to do this. For both these teams, and Minnesota's done it far more than Pittsburgh has. What is the most difficult part about playing a game in Dublin or England or wherever else, Germany, like wherever else they're playing games now?
It's really, Jeff, I think it's getting the schedule when you land, what you do when you first get there that fits the players so they can be physically ready. So you're not worn out from the 8-hour flight and the 5-hour time change. And I think that's important. Pittsburgh, I think, is 0-1 in overseas games under Tomlin. They lost 2014, was that? But so much so that Pittsburgh went to the league. They wanted to change their flight, their schedule, and go over earlier. But the league apparently said no because they wanted both the Vikings and Pittsburgh to get there at the same time. Kevin O'Connell's 3-0 in London games, and they were set to leave Thursday night. Pittsburgh's leaving the same time. I thought we went over there with Ron Rivera, and I thought Ron had a great schedule. What he did was he made Tuesday and Wednesday the big practice days. That's usually Wednesday, Thursday, right? So Tuesday and Wednesday, we did the bulk of the work. we flew out Wednesday night. We left around 7:00, got Thursday morning, landed there. Then it was just kind of a get acclimated day. We would go to the field, but just walk around, no real practice at all. And then Friday, we would use that as a regular Friday, Fast Friday, we used to call it, and try to have a very spirited practice there. Typical Friday practice, though. And we came out and we played well. We beat Tampa Bay. So I definitely like that schedule. You know, a lot of teams, wherever you are, like if you're in London, Friday night, you let the players go out, go down to London, visit. But it's all about, Geoff, really acclimating to the time difference and the travel. And I think that's a huge part of who plays well and who wins this game. Now with Minnesota, they're staying over, playing an hour on Sunday, staying over 7 days, and playing in London the next week. And that presents some operational problems, but it will be easier on their players because they won't have the travel and the time change that you would if you're coming over just to play one game.
Yeah, really interesting about scheduling and whatnot. And we'll talk more about Minnesota staying there, I think, next week, right? Because that would be kind of a point to look at what they do roster wise. And, in this game, look, Pittsburgh again, Marty, they won the most Pittsburgh Bowl last week. Forced 5 turnovers, 2 of those at the goal line. One was a fumble, one was an interception. And okay, so where are they better than the Vikings? Quarterback, right? Aaron Rodgers is better than Carson Wentz. Else the Vikings are better. They're better. A better offensive play caller, a better defensive play caller. The problem is Carson Wentz, who I just will never see my money, Marty. And so I don't have a pick in this game. I would take the Vikings to win, but I don't wager on Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I that's tough. And I was with Carson. I like him, but the game kind of went the Vikings' way. He really didn't have to do a whole lot last week. I think the Steelers will pressure him. I think they have to sack him quite a bit. I think they will. I think that the question is in this game on both sides of the ball, right? The Steelers haven't really they won 2 games, but they haven't looked great on offense. Aaron Rodgers even said it wasn't good enough after last week, even though they won. I think this is going to come down to sacks and turnovers. And you can say that every week about every game, but I just think that if Carson Wentz protects the ball, if he gets rid of the ball and doesn't take a lot of sacks, I think the Vikings definitely are the better team. But that's a huge question mark.
If you like what you're hearing here on the GM Shuffle, there's even more at VSiN Pro. Betting splits, power ratings, and sharp analysis, all for just $9.99 your first month. Go to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all the subscription options. I want to give us a little more breathing room on one of the bigger games here in the NFCs. I want to touch a couple games here quickly. We have a few minutes, Marty. Buffalo is hosting New Orleans. This number is 15.5 for Buffalo, Marty.
Yep.
I'd be fine taking Buffalo minus 15.5. The Saints are back on the road after getting blown out by Seattle. I don't really know what the case is for New Orleans here. Buffalo has dominated teams in this exact spot over the years. And I think Buffalo just gets out to a 27-0 lead, 30-0 lead, just coast in the second half of this game.
That makes sense. That's what common sense tells you. But I am so leery of these games, Geoff. I mean, usually, okay, so the Saints lose 44-13. When you get blown out, you usually come out and play a lot better. And it's not like the Saints gave up 330 yards of total offense, 87 of which was rushing. So it was turnovers. It was special teams. The game just got away from them. Listen, are the Bills 15 points better than the Saints? Sure they are. I mean, the Saints will struggle offensively, but the Bills defense isn't exactly one that I picture coming in and just shutting anybody down. I think the Saints, obviously, it would be the biggest shock of the season if the Bills lost this game. Nobody sees that happening, but I think the Saints might cover the 15. Can't bet on either. Can't touch the game, but I wouldn't be as confident over the 15 just because there's so many points.
Marty, I may have wagered on Buffalo. Don't tell anyone about that. We'll see.
That's good for you. I'm saying.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, we'll talk Philly, Tampa Bay. We'll talk Chiefs, Ravens next on the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Back on the GM Shuffle. Geoff, Schwartz, Marty, Hurney. Let's get right to it, Marty. Big game in New Orleans, Tampa Bay this weekend between the Eagles and the Bucs. Both teams 3-0 here. Both teams getting to it a little bit differently. Both teams needing not miraculous. The Bucs were winning most of that game, but the Eagles needed a miraculous way to get home last weekend. It's supposed to be hot in Tampa Bay this weekend. That's one advantage they have. I played those games there. I know you've been to Tampa Bay a lot. There's an advantage for the Bucs when the weather is the way it is. They're getting 3.5 points as well. Worth noting, Mike Evans out for Tampa Bay. Right now, the Tampa Bay's offensive line super beat up. There's talk about maybe getting some pieces back this week, but we'll find out closer to game time. I really like Tampa in this game, Marty. I think that their style of play, their physicality, and maybe the Eagles just, they were a little nonchalant last week. They kind of let the Rams get up early and control that game. I think Tampa Bay, their style of play, I favor them here plus the 3.5. I think it's a tough spot for Philly off that emotional win to go on the road and playing that heat.
I totally agree. The Tampa's one of my plays this week as well. And Todd Bowles is 4-1 versus Nick Sirianni. That surprised me, Geoff. I don't know about you, but when I read that really kind of surprised me. Philly's averaged only 17 points versus the Bucs against Todd Bowles teams in that span. And meanwhile, Bucs have averaged 27 points. So not that any of that matters. And Bucs are without Mike Evans. As you said, the right side of that line is a real concern to me with Philadelphia. I think they're going to, Vic Fangio will try to expose that side of the line as much as he can and get pressure on Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's been taking a lot of hits, so his ability to hold up. But I just think that Tampa's got a shot to win this game outright. Really liking with the 3.5. And they've won close games, Geoff. And you can talk about from a player's perspective as far as when you win close games early in the season in this league, your confidence builds. And it just seems to snowball, doesn't it? I mean, just like it does the other way. If you lose a couple close games and now you're 1-2, 0-3, I just think momentum is huge in this league, and I think the Bucs have it coming in as a home dog. I like them getting the 3.5.
I do as well. You mentioned Vic Fangio scheming up the Bucs right side. Nolan Smith out for this game, so obviously that takes away maybe one option for him to do that. Look, the Eagles offensively too have just. There's always a question to me about how explosive the offense can be, and there are times it just goes to the complete lulls. And A.J. Brown was superhuman in that game. It pulled him out of some of those lulls, right? They were backed up 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, maybe even he catches that ball, he breaks a tackle, like great. Like that's what superstars do in Brown, right? But that does concern me again, like trying to do it to a Tampa Bay team. The next week, look, they have not, against Eagle or the Chiefs, 20 points, right? Like they have had moments this year where it hasn't looked great. And so I think it's kind of a tough spot for them. So I'm with you on Tampa Bay. One game that,
Jeff, let me throw this one at you real quick before we switch. Okay. Tell me if this shocks you or not. Jalen Hurts, 18-0 in the last 18 games he has start and finished. The last time the Eagles lost a game that he started and finished was in week 4 of 2024. Guess who it was against?
Tampa Bay?
Bucs. Tampa Bay.
They had their number.
But that's
they played him well in the playoffs.
18-0.
They played him well in the playoffs. Yeah.
Sorry,
they just keep winning games.
That got me excited.
No, I love it. No, they keep winning games. But you're right. This matchup, again, there is some, the way the Bucs style of play seems to kind of frustrate the Eagles at times in these games. So this next game interests me, Marty, more of the storylines outside of the football than maybe the football. But Tennessee's 0-3. We go to Houston, who's also 0-3, which is shocking. Houston has the least amount of points in the NFL. And, I don't want to put it all on CJ Stroud, but But Marty, it's not good enough. They have 38 points in 3 games. The offense of line is bad, which we knew, but there are other teams that have bad offensive lines, and they managed to just do something on offense. The Texans, watching them play Jacksonville, they have no purpose, no rhythm. I know they have a new offensive coordinator, totally fair. That takes time. When you look around the new offenses around the NFL, like what Chicago's doing into week 4 now, the way they've looked, right, gotten better every week. The Texans are in a world of hurt now. Tennessee stinks, but I got to see this weekend the Texans put up 28 points. You know, Marty, like I need to see that this is their breakout game. And if it's not happening this season for them.
Right. And I agree. I don't think it is. I mean, listen, Geoff, we can say CJ Stroud all we want, but sure, you can patchwork things with a bad offensive line, but it's not gonna work week to week. It's not gonna last. And I just think that again, I'm a huge D'Amico Ryans guy, and I think they play great defense. I just don't think their offense is good enough. I don't know who wins this game. I couldn't tell you because the Titans are with a rookie quarterback, and even though I think he's going to be good, they're not very good right now. Neither offense has proven to be able to score consistently. So, the total is extremely low, 38.5. But this is just one to watch, but it's certainly neither team has done much to excite you.
Marty, you're the general manager of the Tennessee Titans. I believe it's year 2, right? Of the general, or did he come year 2, right? For general manager in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your coach is 3-17 right now. There are decisions in game that have not been great as far as decision making. We saw the end of the first half last week, like a masterclass of how not to proceed. If he goes to 3-18, like how long, if you're the general manager, how long are you giving Brian Callahan? Because look, wins and losses are obviously a measure of success, but also I think we agree, like, how you lose the games. Like you remember Dan Campbell, right, with the Lions. Like he started kind of slow, but it was, you saw like bits and pieces of physicality, of creativity and offense, of like, we're going to be aggressive. We're going for a 4th down. You can live with those things if the losses are coming when you think that the wins might be soon, right? But Tennessee, it doesn't look at anything like that at all. They've gotten their butts kicked now multiple weeks in a row. You're the general manager. You're watching this game Sunday. How hot is that seat for Brian Callahan?
Well, as we talked about last time, I wouldn't make a change during the season. Okay. I mean, if you're at this point after week 4 and you're saying as a general manager, you want to fire the head coach, then you didn't do your job in the offseason. Also, it's not Brian Callahan's fault that they don't have receivers that can catch a ball. I mean, how many drop passes have they had? I just think that it's a rebuild. But again, do they know when they're rebuilding, do they know how they want to win games? I'm not sure that they have a blueprint right now. So it's not all on the head coach, Geoff. It's just, it's a young franchise that's growing, but you're right. I mean, I think at the end of the year, you have to take a long, hard look at it. And really, Cam Ward has shown enough where, to me, you want a head coach that can come in, like a Ben Johnson with a Caleb Williams, right? You want somebody that can come in and really maximize, because I think this guy's a future franchise quarterback. I really do, just off of what I've seen. He's not getting a lot of help. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. But I just think that it's something that you wait until the end of the season to make a decision on.
All right, look, I certainly get it. I've been in that spot before where a coach was on a hot seat and it didn't work out, but you stick with it because the coach knows what he's doing. Now, Foxy's a little different than Callahan because he'd been to 2 Super Bowls at that point, and he had earned that respect to wait all season. A huge game in Kansas City, Baltimore at Kansas City. The loser goes to 1-3, Marty. Goes to 1-3, which would put potentially the Chiefs three back of the Chargers. Could put the Ravens 2 back of the Bengals. This is interesting because the Ravens defense has been pretty bad, right? 41 to Buffalo, 38 the other night. They're making uncharacteristic mistakes, fumbling the football a bunch. They have not played well against Kansas City, right? They've lost games against Kansas City in the past. The Chiefs offensively, that little bit of Tyquan Thornton, like gave them a little bit of burst to something. Xavier Worthy, I believe, is on schedule to play this weekend. So they add basically Xavier Worthy back plus the emergence of Thornton. Kansas City is getting 2.5 points here. This is like the best spot ever to bet Patrick Mahomes. I think the Ravens are better, Marty, but I think the Chiefs offensively, if they get some burst, man, something from that offense, I think they win this game.
I don't think I've ever been more shocked. I mean, it in recent memory than I was with the way the Ravens came out and played the other night and the way they lost to the Lions. The Lions really won my respect, and we can talk about Dan Campbell and what he's done there later. But I'm with you, Geoff. Listen, if Kansas City can come out, to me, the whole difference in their first half and second half last week was they came out, they ran the ball, they got into 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and open things up for Patrick Mahomes. If they can do that against the Ravens, I think they'll be okay. But if they can't, and I don't know, you're right. The Ravens have not played well on defense, but gosh, I think they've got to improve, right? If they can keep Patrick Mahomes into 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, I think they win this game. I cannot believe we're talking about the Ravens potentially going to 1 and 3. That would really shock me. So I get it. This will be a fun game to watch. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I'm still trying to get over the shock of the Ravens, the way they lost to the Lions last week, Monday night.
Yeah. I'm looking at is Matabuke out again this week?
Yep.
He
didn't practice. And that's a huge loss. That's a huge loss.
Yeah. And Van Noy is hit right. Did not practice Wednesday as we record this on Thursday. Right. And that's a problem. Like the injuries, if you were to attack the Chiefs, like those are two guys that you need to basically pressure. If Mahomes has time, you're just not going to hold up no matter who the wide receivers are. And that does feel like, and look, the Chiefs lastly have played the run well. They play the run pretty well. And I think they're okay with letting Lamar throw the ball to beat them. It's what they've tried to do in the past. The Ravens get impatient, throw the ball too much, ends up hurting them. And the Derrick Henry fumble thing is bad, man. Like, he's the type of player that you rely on to end games for you. And unfortunately, that's been a problem. Now, obviously, that probably reverts back to the mean here pretty soon, but not great for Henry at the moment. All right, Marty, we're going to preview a couple more games. We'll get to our best bets. We'll do that next on GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Back on the GM Shuffle, Geoff Schwartz, Marty, Hurney. A few more games to give you a preview, then we'll hit our best bets. The Chargers, 3-0 on the road at New York. Giants 0-3. Giants 6-point underdogs. This game features a new quarterback for the Giants and Jackson Dart. And Marty, when Russell Wilson threw that ball up the tunnel, which is still an incredibly funny throw, I can't get over that throw he made. That was the end of his time as a Giants quarterback. And a multitude of things I think are at fault here, right? Now, if you watch that final 4-play segment, the play calling is bad. Like it's bad play calling. It's bad quarterback play. It's an offense completely lost. No rhythm. Nothing concrete you can do well. Nothing you can rely on. You're at the 10-yard line. They have no reliable plays. Now, of course, Tracy was out. I get it, but Scatterboo can run the football. He did a good job of that. Russell Wilson, semi-mobile still. You have Neighbors. Your offensive line was better with Thomas, even though that part of the game, I think he was out by then because he was doing some rest. But the young kid came in, was doing fine. Chiefs don't rush a pass. It just was all bad. And so they went to Jackson Dart, which to me, this move is twofold. Okay, Marty? Jackson Dart starting. One, it's that Russell Wilson provides you zero upside. There's no point having him in there. They scored 6 points against Commanders, 9 against the Chiefs. They beat they scored a ton against the Cowboys, who stink, right? Just a lot of ton of points to the Bears. But this matters as well. The next comment. I'm a former Giant. I know that team operates. The Mara family was not going to stand for getting booed all day on Sunday. That was going to happen immediately.
I agree.
In this game. The second Russell Wilson runs out there, he gets booed. The first interception, he gets booed. The first 3 out, he gets booed. And that's a very prideful football family, as we know. They had a lot of winning, and they're not going to stand sitting in the owner's box getting booed the entire game. The Giants might lose, and I think they do get their butts kicked in this game, but they get their butts kicked with their future quarterback, which is Jackson Dart.
I agree, Geoff, and it isn't even losing. The other night you watch that game, there was no energy. I mean, Cam Scatterboo and the defense line were the only two areas that kind of brought any energy. I think that Jackson Dart does bring energy, and the one thing he brings, the one thing that losing teams are desperately looking for is hope, right? There's something that you can run him out in front of the fans and say, okay, we're 0-3. We're probably going to be 0-4, but this guy is the future, you know?
Yeah.
Now, nobody knows that. Nobody knows whether he is or not. They can say how high they've been on him since training camp all they want. Until you go out and see him in action, you don't know, do you, Geoff? But I think that they had to do this. They needed energy. Geoff, it was bad watching the second half of that game. They had no energy whatsoever, and they were in that game. It wasn't like the Chiefs came out and were really, they started to get it together in the second half, but you know, they're not the Chiefs we know yet. I think they're getting there, but so I just think that they had no choice but to do this. You already start hearing the whispers of, you know, Brian Dable and Joe Shane being on the hot seat. And listen, that you try to ignore all that stuff, and you can say that you don't pay attention to it all you want, but you do. You're a human being, so you're looking for things to try to improve. I do think Jackson Dart brings some energy. Listen, I couldn't bet against. I could not take the 6 against the Chargers, but I don't think I want to give the 6 either. I just think that this is a game that, heck, they could come out and Jackson Dart scramble around, make some plays. I do think that the Giants' defensive front will do some things to bring New York some momentum in this game. It'll be an interesting game, but I thought, you know, initially I think they probably would have preferred to wait until the following week. I think they play the Saints, but they had no choice
They do.
to start Jackson Dart this week.
They had no choice. The total is something I'm targeting, the under here, 43.5. For some of the things you said, the Chargers offense has not scored a ton of points the last couple of weeks, right? 20 and 23. And this Giants defensive line is what they do best. It's a good defensive line. We saw a little bit of cracks in Joe Alt last week on kind of the edge rushers. And I think that's going to be a problem again this weekend with Burns and KT. And then the Chargers center is bad. I hate to be mean about it, but he's not good. Yeah. And Dexter Lawrence is going to eat the entire game. And so I'm fearful the Chargers just don't score enough points this game to cover the game. And then the flip side, look, Jackson Dart, I think will struggle. He's not ready to play yet. It's fine. I imagine he throws the ball at Neighbors and he tries to run around and make some hero balls, probably has a bad interception. Like it's going to be fine. But I think the Chargers could struggle to move the ball in this game. It's obviously early kickoff for them, body clock wise. It isn't that much of a concern anymore in the NFL, but nonetheless, it is a 1:00 game in a stadium that's going to be dead. There'll be no one there at all in that game. So looking at that one there, I'll let the under in that one.
Think so?
Another.
You don't think anybody else come to see Jackson Dart start?
I think people had already sold their tickets, and maybe they can get them back, Marty. But the Chargers don't come here very often. Like they don't have a huge fan base, but if you live in this region, you might have seen the Chargers come here in 8 years, right? Like the way it used to work out, right? So
the only other thing that worries me, Geoff, is the Chargers are getting beat up injury wise, aren't they? I mean,
they are. Khalil Mack injury.
Yeah. No, it's low
Harris
in the preseason. Yeah. I don't know. This one feels like one of those NFL surprise games, and I think that the Chargers have started off with a brutal schedule, right? I mean, 3 division games, Kansas City and Brazil, and the Raiders and the Broncos. Going to East, I don't know. I think this game might be closer than we think.
It might be, Marty. Let's get to one other game here before our best bet. So the Colts are at the Rams. This is sitting at 3.5. The Rams are a favorite. Total 49.5. Look, the Colts have had a great start so far. This is a different animal. It's not the Dolphins. It's not the Broncos. It's not the Tennessee Titans. It's the Rams off a really bad loss. Like that is you have losses that are bad. That was a bad loss. Not only did they lose, right? They got 2 kicks blocked. They were winning a game they absolutely should have won. The way they played in the first half of that game, I think this is a pretty tough spot for the Colts in this game, Marty. I lean heavily to the Rams in this one.
Yeah, I can't get you on the Colts, can I? This has been
No.
a struggle for 3 weeks, and I kinda am, and, it's funny, Jeff, when I was with a team, you'd always get friends and fans saying, "Gosh, I wish the team," if you're playing a team that Sunday, "Oh, I wish they woulda won last week, so they didn't wanna win as much this week." That's not the way it goes in this league. This is a league of confidence and momentum. The Colts have as much confidence as they can possibly have. The Rams, tough loss, going back, have to fly back east to west after the game. There's got to be a certain amount of confidence loss that they experience just from losing a game like that. How could we lose that game is what they're asking themselves the whole ride back to LA. I'd like the Colts here, especially with the points. I like the Colts with the 3.5. It would not shock me if they came out winning this game. I mean, look at them offensively, Jeff. Offensive line's good. You got the quarterback, the running back, receivers. They can score points, and I just think that we didn't expect to see Daniel Jones come in and make this kind of impact, but he had the weapons around him to do so. I just think the Colts were real. I really do.
We'll find out. I could be wrong for the 4th week in a row. I did pick them to win week 1, though, to be fair, and cover that game. So I want to make that very clear. I was on the Colts value in there. All right.
Got me on them when you said about, you like quarterbacks in week 1 who made plays with the ball in their hands. And that's what Daniel Jones can do that. So,
you can't.
I don't know. I wonder how much second guessing there is inside the Giants organization of whether they should let him go or not right now.
We'll see Jackson Dart place. That'll answer that question for them pretty quickly. Let's get to our best bets here, Marty. In a game that we both like as the Panthers plus 5.5 at New England. Look, it's kind of simple here. Why are the Patriots a 5.5 point favorite over anyone in the National Football League at the moment? They commit a ton of penalties. They commit a ton of turnovers. They look like an undisciplined team right now. And I don't know why they're 5 point favorites. Yeah, the Panthers are not great right now, maybe not, but they were down 27-3 in the third quarter, late third quarter. They scored 19 points in a row against Arizona and then just won 30-0. Like, they're starting to play better football. Ted McMillan didn't practice. Xavier Legette didn't practice. That is some concern here. Again, we don't know the full injury report, but I like Carolina getting 5.5 in this spot. The Patriots right now, to me, are just an absolute mess.
I'm with you, Jeff. I like the Panthers here too. That's one of my plays as well. And my only concern is Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, do they get enough pressure, consistent pressure up the middle against Bryce Young to take away his visual passing lanes? They're going to try to do that. I think they're capable of doing that. That's my biggest fear in this game. But I like the Panthers with the 5.5, and they could win the game.
Yeah. I just say this. I know people with the Panthers felt comfortable with their backup offensive linemen. So, like, it wasn't a thing where they thought they couldn't compete without, Mays and without Corbett and Hunt. They like Mays. They like Zavila. So, worth noting there. All right, Marty.
Both of those guys will fight you, Jeff. They're both scrappers. Yes. I like those two guys too. I just think that I think that's going to be a focus of the Patriots' defensive game plan is just try to get pressure, get them off the spot. We always said that. John Fox always said that when we played Drew Brees. Get them off the spot. So that'll probably be the rallying cry for their defense going in this week.
We both like Tampa Bay. We talked about that game already. I like the Rams as my third best bet, Marty. You have one more best bet. What is it?
I like the Jags over the 49ers, and it's just because the 49ers are banged up, Jeff, and they're winning close games. I think Kyle Shanahan is just an amazing head coach, finds ways to do that. But the Jaguars are fairly consistent. Listen, would I like to see more from them at times offensively? Sure, I would. But I think their defense is pretty consistent. I think that they're a confident team at this point. I just like them going out and covering against a 49er team that is really beat up right now. And I just think that Jacksonville's got a chance to win the game outright.
Well, that's it for the GM Shuffle on this Thursday. We'll be back on Monday, as usual, to break down everything we saw and preview the 2 Monday Night Football games we have this week. Enjoy the games this weekend, guys. Take care.